What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tech Predictions. Today, Bancroft joining you all once again to go over another deck profile. Not just any deck profile, but we're tackling the new Android 13. And like always, there's buttons down below. Feel free to click them if they're there for a reason. And don't forget those links in the description. But let's get into it. So when putting this deck together, I remember going over it originally and kind of thinking, I don't 100% like the idea of this deck. And then when I start finally piecing together and looking at it, and then getting a chance to actually play it, I really enjoyed the idea of what this deck can do. And as we go over the profile, I'll kind of go over more details on the interactions and whatnot for the cards. So the leader on the Unawakened side is just Jiro's supercomputer. It can attack, activate main, switch this card to rest mode, look up the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 1 red Android card among them to your hand to shuffle your deck afterwards. Awaken, if your life is 4 or less, or you have 2 or more energy and 1 or more Android 14 and 15 cards, both red with energy cost of 1 in your battle area and or drop, you may switch this card to, and up to 1 of your energies to active mode, and then take your life down to 6, and you add those cards to your hand, and you flip over. So what's great about that is that even if you're going on turn 1, you're still going to get a search off this, which is fantastic. So on turn 2, when you get the secondary search, you play a one of the cards, or even you combo with them to put them in the drop. Then when you awaken, you go back into active mode. And on auto, when this card attacks, you choose 1 of 2 effects. Either A, you play 114 or 115 card, both red with energy cost of 1 from your hand, or you draw 1 card. So either you're thinning the deck out, or you can get a draw, which is really good. And the second auto is that you place 1 Android card from your Z energy to your Android's drop. When you play a red Android card, add up to 1 red Android card from your drop to your Z energy. And what's good about that is cycling certain cards into your Z energy for other effects, or even the Z leader effect. And we'll go ahead and go over the Z deck real quick so we can touch base on that Z leader. So 1 energy when your life is 4 or less, red Android 13 card. It does take 2 Z energy for the effect. Auto, when this card attacks, you play up to 1 Android 14 or 15 card, both red, with energy cost of 1 from your hand or drop. I like that secondary effect because playing it from the drop gives you another combo piece, and potentially gives you a draw based on their autos, and we'll go over those in a second. Activate battle once per turn, place 1 13 card, 1 14 card, and 1 15 card from your Z energy to the owner's drop. You draw 1 card, and this card gets plus 5,000 power and double strike for the turn. What's great with that is that it's a 5k boost for the turn, so you could do it during your opponent's turn to get a draw and a 5k boost, and using the leader's auto on the regular version of the leader to kind of put those 13s into your Z energy, because in most cases, those 13s aren't going to your Z energy. I found a lot my opponent was warping or KOing or bomb decking my big Android 17, big Android 13, and that way the small one, because I want to keep it dual attack as long as possible, was constantly going into my drop area. So, really good there. We play 2 of the Android 14 and 15 team up terrors. They have deflect, unique, dual attack, blocker. The reason I play 2 of them is because there's not a lot of times I wanted to play these cards because I was trying to play other effects or do other things. But it is 2 red energy, 3 Z energy, and the permanent is if you have a red Android card with an energy cost of 7 or more in play, you reduce the energy cost in your Z deck by 1. So initially it's 1 red energy, but still 3 cards. Auto, when this card attacks, use up to 1 Android card from your drop and combo if its skills negate it for the turn. And this card gains barrier until the end of your opponent's next turn. Now keep in mind, there's no specified combo cost on that one, so just when you attack with this card, you can get the combo of 1 Android card, which is really good, because you can initially combo the super combo, which is a 10k. Auto once per turn, when this card activates blocker, you switch to active mode. So initially you're getting 1 attack, resanding, and then potentially getting 2 blocks off this card. We play 2 of the Vegetas because you're just really good, and you can get a lot of cards in your Z energy very quickly with this deck, because a lot of cards tend to just combo cards for you. But this has deflect. When this card attacks, use it to 1 mono red card with 5,000 combo power from your drop, and a combo if its skills negate it for the turn. Additionally, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and or unisons and gets minus 15,000 power for a turn, which really goes to the theme with the deck. A lot of this cards in this deck like to just neg things out. Activate main, if you have 4 more Z energy, you switch this card to active mode, and it gets plus 10,000 power, double strike, and barrier for the turn. Play 1 Goku, because there are a few Saiyan cards we do play in this deck, primarily some of the super combos. It's just really good to play this, because when you play this card, you place up to 1 Saiyan card from your drop under this card, and it gains barrier for the turn. Additionally, if your opponent has 4 more life, you deal 1 damage to them. So initially, you can knock your opponent down to 3 life. So we don't worry about the active main because your leader's not panned, but it's a double strike deflect. And the last Z battle card we play is the 1-drop Vegeta, just because if we need it on a 4 life or even 5 life, it's beneficial. Primarily because the Z leader, we do require us to be at 4 life for its effect. So that's the Z deck. Before getting to the actual deck itself, I just want to kind of go over the main majority of this core engine is from this set, because a lot of it does play on itself. And just give a heads up, my niece is upstairs running around while recording this video, so hopefully it doesn't get too loud. But let's get into it though. So we play 4 of the 1-drop 14s. It has a limit 1, so you can only do it once per turn. If your leader card's red Android card and all your energy is mono red, when this card is played, choose 1. If your leader is red Android 13 Z leader, draw 1 card. Or add up to 1 Android 15 from your deck, from your hand, shuffle your deck afterwards. It searches for the 1-drop. And its counterpart, the 15, also searches for the 14. And it also has the same first auto. If your leader is Android 13 Z leader, draw 1 card. So earlier turns with your leader, you just swing, you play one of these from your hand, you pull one from your deck. So pretty much you're thinning your deck out, and then once you've gone into your Z Awaken, you're pretty much just playing one of these from your drop in order to draw a card, and then you turn around and just combo that card off for yourself. So it kind of works in itself. Like it a lot. And kind of the start of the deck, we got the 1-drop Android 13. So it has Union Zorb once per turn for 1 energy. If your leader is red, Android 13 card, and your opponent has 3 or more energy, and you place 1 Android 14 and 1 Android 15 card from your drop under this card, you play up to 1 Android 13 card with energy cost of 7 from your deck on top of this card in active mode, then shuffle your deck afterwards. And on play, when this card's played, you get to look top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 1 Android card with energy cost of 3 or less, and want them to your hand, and shuffle your deck afterwards. I've seen a lot of people actually play with the Gogeta Unison, I guess to pretty much just do the +2 to play this card in rest mode, and then immediately you can tap 1 afterwards, and it plays the new card in active mode, which is pretty nice. Kind of uses less energy that way. I don't play the Unison package at all in this deck, but I can definitely see experimenting with that route of play. And the 7 drops we have, I do play one of a green yellow. This is from Battle Evolutions, which is Deflect, triple attack. Permanent if your leader card is yellow or an Android card, reduce the combo cost of this card in your hand by 1. So if you get stuck with it, you can still combo it off, it's not a problem. Auto, if your leader card is red, Android 13 card, when this card attacks, your opponent chooses 1 battle card and KOs it. So it kind of helps you control your opponent's field. Go with one of the green yellows from set 9. Double Strike, this one doesn't have Deflect, but keep in mind, this is being played from a secret area. So if your opponent has a counterplay, they have to call it before you play the card. So if they don't call a counterplay, I can go for this one and be just safe. If they call a counterplay, just go for this one. That way it's not being affected. But this one has an activate mean. If your leader card is Android 13 card and you choose 3 Android cards in your drop area, place them at the bottom of your deck in any order. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, KO it. Then your opponent chooses 2 cards in their hand and places it at the bottom of their deck. And places it in their drop area. So depending on the situation, either one of those is really good. But a lot of times we're just going for the new 7-drop red, which also has Deflect, it's Double Strike, but has a permanent. If an Android 13 card is under this card gains dual attack and isn't affected by the skills of red Saiyan cards with 20,000 power or less in any of your opponent's areas, which, cool. Best part about that fact is that it has dual attack, so now it's a Double Strike dual attack. When this card attacks, use up to 1 card from under this card and a combo of its skills negate it for the turn, and choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and or unisons, and it gets minus 25,000 power per turn. What's really great is that you can target blockers before they get to block with them because your auto goes off first. So pretty much you just swing, no negates, cool, auto, boom, KO that blocker, and now my attack is still going through to your leader. And like I said, just hitting unisons is actually pretty nice as well, especially like the Boo unison. I could go, all right, cool, minus 25,000 to your Boo unison, rip a marker. Now if you want to do the -1, that's 2 markers you're losing just from my 1 attack, and I'm okay with that. It does have an activate main for 2 energy. If your opponent has 3 or more energy, you may choose 1 14 and 1 15 card in your battle area and or drop. Play this card and place the chosen cards underneath it. Now it won't get dual attack, but we do tack in 2 of the Villainous threats, Android 13s. It is a 5k combo cost. It's a 2-cost Android. We never really gonna play this card because it's just too much to play. I feel like for 15 battle power, and its auto only goes off once, so that's when you play it. But its activate main is if your leader is red Android 13 card and you place this card from your hand underneath a red Android card in your battle area, return up to one red Android card of energy cost of 1 from your drop to your hand. So initially, if you have the one drop 13s in your drop area, you could go ahead and activate main, put this underneath the new one, and then just return a card to your hand from your drop, which is really great. Going into more 14 and 15 plays, we have the 3 drops. So this one, the 14 has blocker and auto. If a red Android 15 card is in your Z energy at the end of the turn, you switch this card to active mode. Activate main / battle limit 1, and this is for 1 energy. If your leader is red Android 13 card and you have 2 or more energy and a red Android 15 card in your Z energy, your opponent may choose 2 of their battle cards and they get minus 20,000 power for the turn. If they don't, you draw 1 card and play this card from your hand. What's great about this though is that in the Q&A they kind of explain where your opponent only has 1 battle card, you still get to play this card. If your opponent has a barrier card, they can't choose it, so you get to play this card. There's no way getting around it. They have to choose 2 cards in order to stop this card from being played. And like we also play 3 of the other one as well. They're also just good for just comboing off as well and just put them in the drop. But if my opponent starts to mass such too big of a field, just tapping 1 and say, hey, cool, do you want this card to play? Sometimes comes in handy. And then I played 2 of the green ones from back in like EX 06, where active main places card in your drop area from your hand. If your leader card is Android 13, you draw 1 card. So pretty much it's just a kind of like a Dragon Ball. You know, I get it, cool. Boom, put it in my drop, draw another card, and then it's good for the 1 drop 13's effect because he doesn't specify a color, so it just works. And keep in mind, when stuff like this happens and you need absorb, you have to choose 1 or. Like when it comes to character types, it is 1 or the other, so you still need 2 cards to put underneath them. So, going to my extra cards, 2 testings because sometimes negates are nice. Negate, I do play 1. Is that all you got? Mainly because there's so many different options in my deck to just kind of potentially neg out my opponent's cards. Having 1 of these in my hand might not be bad. Just occasionally hang on to it and just play when I feel like it's important. 2 Android assaults. What's great about this one is that if your leader card is Android 13, you need to attack the add up to 1 Android card with energy cost of 1 from your drop to your hand. It's just another good way of potentially cycling the Android 13s back to my hand or any of the other cards back to my hand. And then permanent, if your leader card is Android 13 Z leader, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand by adding 1 card from your life to your hand instead of paying its energy cost. And you can use that also like when you're at 4 life to go down to 3 life, and that actually turns on our next negate. Where permanent, if your leader card is Android 13 Z leader and your life is 3 or less, you may activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost. Now, its counter attack is limit 1, so you can only do it once per turn. And when you activate this card's counter skill, you get to play this card in rest mode, which is pretty cool too. It's a 15k crit, potentially for free. I do tech in 1 of the Rebel reinforcements just because it is 2 energy, but a lot of times if I have the energy open or I feel comfortable doing it, especially if I have a Android assault and a finally freed, I could just pay 2 energy for this card and still be okay with the other 2s. And what this allows me to do is just either bring back either the 13, the 15, or even the 14. And depending on my situation, my Z leader, I'm either drawing a card or searching top 5 for another Android card, which is really great. I played 2 of the SS Deadly Bomber. I didn't really get a chance to play this one as much, but I like it activate main. It is 2 energy, which kind of feels expensive, but if your leader card is Android 13, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and gets minus 20,000 power for the turn. Then play up to 1 Android 14 or Android 15 card, both red, of energy cost of 3 from your drop to your hand. And I actually didn't really mention this, I think, when I was going over the cards. Like I said, this one does have blocker, and it gets to restand, so you could activate the blocker on your opponent's turn after you attack with it. And this one gets is a 20k on swing. So, I mean, they're just nice little cards, potentially an attack / blocker or even a 20k swing, but primarily just paying 2 energy to also get rid of a problematic barrier card is always nice. And I feel like my opponent's decks playing don't really have barrier cards. I may take this out for one of my sideboard cards. Forgotten Capsule. For 1 energy, you place 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck, add up to 114 and 115 card, both red, and cost of 1 from your deck to your hand to shuffle your deck afterwards. You do need 1 of the 1-drops, at least in your drop or in play, to awaken on turn 2. So having this potentially for a turn 1 effect is really great. And you can always use this also to put back an Android 17 that got stuck into your hand that you don't need anymore to dig out the other cards back to your hand. One Realm of the Gods Ultra Instinct, mainly just because it's more potential negging. So primarily just used for my opponents during my turn, where if it's your turn, choose one of your opponent's battle cards with energy greater than their current energy, and he gets minus 30,000 power for a turn. Just helps me snipe out cards that are problematic. I can use it during my my opponent's turn instead to draw one card and choose one of my cards and gets plus 5,000 power for battle. So, one Champa, just in case I need it. For super combos, I kind of did a weird split. I do one Dr. Gero just because he is searchable, and then I do 3 of the Raditz, maybe because if I draw into the 17s, sorry, if I draw into the 7-drop 13s, I want to make sure they're put back in my deck. So a 3-1 split is really nice, at least in my opinion. For tech options, 2 of the red Gohans because they're just really good. When this card is played, choose up to a total of 7 of my opponent's battle cards and or unisons. They get minus 10,000 power for the turn. Additionally, if I chose 5 or more cards with the skill, it gets plus 10k in its double strike return. But primarily, just comboing this card off and then tapping 1. If your leader is red, when this card is added to your Z energy, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards or unison. It gets minus 15,000 power for a turn. It can be really good just to combo it off, pay 1, and snipe another card so they can't swing with it. 1 Broly because it clears out problematic cards. Because this deck wants to Z Awaken. 2 Omega Shenrons. Primarily, the active main limit 1 for 2 red energy. If your leader is a red Shenron Dragon card or a red Z leader, and you have 3 or more energy, play this card. So it's a 30k triple strike that could potentially play as soon as they get down to 4 life in Z Awaken. I think it's really strong, and it's just another way of potentially having a game in there for me. Also, activate battle once, choose up to 1 battle card or unison, and it gets minus 3,000 power for turn for each of your Z energy. Additionally, if your leader card is a Z leader, choose up to 1 battle card or unison, and it gets minus 30,000 power per turn. It just helps snipe cards out of the battle area. And last but not least, SSB Vegeta. I mean, it's a good secret rare for red. And just kind of go over the side deck real quick. We played 2 of the Black Smoke Dragons. If my opponent has a problematic unison, at least I know they're going to have problematic unison, it's great to play it. Or I just play it to draw 2 cards. 1 Corn Sour because it's like a bean. Depending on what I'm playing against, I may side into after images instead of utter negates, or even topos in case I know the deck can get too aggro. I want to kind of slow them down. 1 Violent Rage just in case it's a certain matchup. I know that was to be important. 1 Mecha Gabora in case I need to stop a card from being played. If I'm playing against green, King Vegeta's Ambition because as long as your leader card and all your energy is mono red, if your opponent has 3 or more energy, they get the counter skill of an extra card, yada yada yada. Won't get the activate main because that requires a red Saiyan. And then for blue control, 2 Pilafs and 2 Mais. Just depends on the situation. This past locals, I came across a match that was a guy was playing Halo Coup, and he had 2 cards on board that was always restaining energy that were battle cards. And I didn't see a peel off at all, but that would have really helped out and potentially stopped him from getting that one against me. And 2 Mice, if they wanted to Dimension Magic, it's going to hurt them. But that is my Android 13 deck profile. Hope you all enjoyed. Keep in mind those buttons down below. Hit those buttons. They help us out. Yeah, read cards, know your plays. Fluff out.